Another really important thing, it's again about camera. I want to talk about a few more things from the ones that I already, touched on the first video. So not just about shutter speed, file formats, and color spaces, but more wisely understanding which type of camera you have to use, not necessarily buy, but use for your VFX shot. Luckily, in 2025, right now, tons of cameras are actually filming a minimum of 10 bits. So in terms of usability for green screen and for VFX, tons of camera are already ready to go. But a few things about it, a few things about this kind of specification and differentiation from one camera to the other. And I want to start actually with a thing that we already talked about, but I want to maintain this as the first thing because it's really important. That it's one of the misleads, misunderstandings from the web, which is always high speed is a myth, but you should know what you're doing. So obviously, if you are going to see the clips we show you on the latest video of the cinematography breakdown, so the garbage matte with crap illumination of me, having on purpose doing a really shitty shot, okay, you'll understand that obviously in a situation like this, high speed, it helps you, okay? But it's a random situation. It's a situation where I wanted to show off the fact that by everything that you've learned, you will still be able to bring home something, even with two lights, even without working in the best way always. But still, keep in mind that if you're doing smooth movements, cinematic movements, and you don't need necessarily to have high speed, you don't have to set your camera as super fast and super crispy. You just want to follow whatever your story might need. Also, one of the most important things is again about formats, depth, and most of all, information. I always go for raw formats. Not all camera shots raw, it's fine, but know about that. Know that if you're working for VFXs, it's great to have everything well prepared and ready to be shot eventually in raw, because you have more data. Again, raw, it's not a video format, it's like a file. It's a file that needs to be transcoded into a video file. So it's always better to shoot raw in terms of information, depth, and the size of the metadata that you already have. And again, raw is metadata, is better, not mandatory. You can also shoot in whatever video formats you might need, but at least in 10-bit, please. Also, your iPhone can shoot 10-bit, so be aware of that. Right now in 2025, tons of cameras might be considered as ready for VFX, but know this, RAW is always better, but again, your camera, if you have a camera that shoots 10-bit, might be enough. Also, we will dance in ACES, but we will grade in ARRI. What does this mean? If you come from the professional colorist masterclass, this won't be new to you. If you come from the color grading for filmmaker masterclass, this won't be new for you, because ACES will be the standard that we're going to use, because it is the standard that we use. Is the Academy color encoding system. Is the color encoding system that the Academy set up in order to have, obviously, cinema and all the movies set onto one specific, color space, obviously. And we will grade in ARRI because EXR sequences and whatever type of camera you will have will be transcoded from ACES into ARRI to create a workflow that it's more like film-like, okay? So it won't matter what type of camera you're going to be using. You might use a Sony, you might use a Canon, you might use whatever camera you want to use. Again, the first thing you want to think about is the type of files that it gives you. At the end of the day, we will still be dancing in ACES, working in ACES, and on the workflows that I'm going to show you, we are going to obviously pass through ARRI. spaces. Okay, that's a technique they use for years, and I also showed years ago on my first classes, and then on the colorist masterclass and professional colorist masterclass and cognitive for filmmakers masterclass. So for all you folks that comes from this masterclass, it won't be anything new. Obviously, it will be just a way to transcode your files and work with your files to have a better readability, interpretation, and obviously a proper method to interpret your sequences. Other thing about camera and shooting, wide lenses are okay, long lenses are okay, but keep in mind to illuminate for that. What does it mean? It means that if you want to cast those shadows, as we talk about it, if you want to create those kind of motivation, you might need to like have a wide lens because you want to read those types of shadows, you want to read those types of casts. Still, you might want to create a close-ups that as a really, really strong usage of maybe backlight or other type of light, and these might create shadows that you don't want to use, that you are not able maybe to flag out. Be aware of that by using maybe a long lens. So by using a long lens, you will also know you'll need to be aware of obviously tracking points and everything else, but if it is motivated, you can use any type of lens you want. And in fact, always sharp image and no blurry background is a false myth, because again, you might need to have that blurred background. You might need to represent that type of tone and style. Be aware of the fact if you're going wide open, all wide open, maybe you won't be able to read the tracking point on the background, so you will need to have extra tracking points, maybe on the foreground, on places that you can see with your camera. So be aware of that, but don't limit yourself. Okay, it's a thing that you always have to think first for your story. Okay, don't limit yourself with any type of aperture and any type of thing that you want to do, any type of lens that you want to do, but still motivated and be able to add tracking points to have everything obviously readable. If you're not still, by the way, if you're still, that's another kind of problem. Like no problems, obviously, just the tracking points around your subject. Handled, it's perfectly fine if you keep in mind here point one, which is always high speed, is a myth, etc., etc. So if you're filming handled, be aware of the fact that obviously it will be better to have a sharper image. Again, when I did that garbage composition that you're going to see later on the course, I think about that. I think about the fact that I wanted to create it in the dirtiest way possible, okay? In order to give you like a proof that with everything that you've learned, you can actually also create something really messy, but bring it home. At the end of the day, bring it home, okay? And again, handled is perfectly fine if you keep in mind point one. So if you are shooting handled and you're not doing crazy stuff, just set your camera in a way that it makes, tracking points readable, okay? If you have to do crazy stuff, obviously you might need to increase the shutter speed. It all depends on your scene. And also, white help you, but black help you more. What does it mean? It means that, let's take as an example the clip that I'm going to show you in few videos from now, which is made of a composite where we have on the background of our actress a dark wall. She enters inside this dark wall in this like dark ruin, and we don't have any backlight or anything that it's helping her standing, off of being separated from the background. In a situation like this, you need to be extra aware because of the fact that when you are obviously illuminating for brighter areas, so for brighter background, it will be always easier also to key your subject and separate your subject and also have a stronger motivation. You will have that blended in a better way. If you have a black background it's a bit harder because you won't be using backlights. Anything won't change in terms of chroma keying, obviously, because you're keying for the green that it's already illuminated. So you're keying a thing that it's illuminated on the background of your actor, and you don't want to take count of the backlight itself on your actor. But still, there might be, if you haven't exposed in the proper way the project, the digital project or the file, there might be a bit of like at this level of like 1 or 2 point of exposure that you want to fix in post, obviously, in this kind of situation. But be aware of the fact that, you know, I wrote black help you more, but the fact it help you less, not more. So it's a contrary. So white will help you more, black will help you less. So be aware of the fact that obviously you need to add extra care about this, because it might happen that you are in post and you have a silhouette that it's not representing black area. So if you have a black area, be aware of everything that it's casting as a backlight on your subject. And if you did everything properly and you don't have anything that is casting on your subject, you might have also to balance it just a tiny bit in post. Also, final thing, again, because I want to say it again, it's file depth bigger than file ratio. I told that lots of time, and I wanted to tell that again another time, because it's crucial for you to have a large file size. You won't be able to see it. Camera, software will see it. You need to have metadata. You need to have a lot of metadata, readability, and having, you know, everything that you have on set properly carried around on your workflow. And so this is everything that you need to know, okay, from it. And for the camera side, okay, it's really important know about all those things. By the way, we are going to show the next case scenarios on cinematography breakdown with the set overviews by having used a Canon C400. We shot in RAW, but you will see that it won't matter what type of camera, what type of rig you're going to use. No matter about that. What it matters, it's how you illuminate your subject, how you illuminate your area, how you set everything in the proper way. So in the next video, we're going to start seeing the cinematography breakdown, and you're going to love them because you will be able to like steal from them. You will be able to like replicate whatever I did in your own way. And also, if you're part of cinematography for filmmakers, it will be extra fun for you because it will give you more inspiration, and you will be also a bit more fresh talking about the type of meters that we use, the things that we used. And I know that you will love it. I know that you will love it. These are the first breakdown that we set up with the first release of the course. I'm sure that during the next month or years, we're going to see more of this, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.
Welcome back inside Unreal Engine for Filmmakers. In this masterclass, you will know how to integrate your footage with 3D scenarios using Nuke and Unreal Engine. Before to start our journey inside the virtual production world with Unreal Engine, I want to talk about ACES. The ACES is the industry standard for managing color inside the Hollywood movie and post-production pipelines. Inside the ACES exist various space transforms. In this case, we will talk about ACES 2065 and ACES CG. The ACES 2065 is the ACES standard color space. It's a very wide space and can encode any visible color. The ACES CG is a color space made for graphic application and post-production pipelines. Obviously, we can work also in the other space transform that we know, like the Rec 2020 and the Rec 709. During this masterclass, we will work inside the ACES in order to match in the best way our footage with our 3D environment. Welcome back inside Unreal Engine for Filmmakers. In this masterclass, you will know how to integrate your footage with 3D scenarios using Nuke and Unreal Engine. Before to work inside Nuke and Unreal Engine, we have to convert our footage in ACES. As you can see, I imported inside DaVinci Resolve the footage that I will use in this masterclass. To convert our footage in ACES, we have to change the color manage settings. So let's go inside the color manage. And as you can see, our project is set in DaVinci YRGB. We have to change the color size in ACES CC. We will use the ACES 1.2 version, and be sure that your process node LUT is set to AP1 timeline color space. Now you can save your color managed. And this is our footage converted in ACES. Don't worry if it's look ugly, we are not losing any details. Now I want to generate from DaVinci two renders. One EXR sequence in ACES in order to work inside Nuke, and a MP4 file in Rec 709 to use inside Unreal Engine. Now let's create our first timeline for the EXR export. I will call my timeline footage for Nuke, and I will change my timeline resolution in 4K, in this case 3840 for 2160. Be sure to set the right frame rate and let's create our timeline. Now I will choose a portion of my footage. In this case, I will start with this angle and I will stop almost here. Okay. Let's add our footage inside our timeline. And obviously, we have also to scale it. Go to Retime and Scaling and choose to fill. Now let's create another timeline. And I will call it footage for Unreal. In this case, it's okay to use an full HD resolution, but before to create my timeline, I have to change the color output. Inside the ACES 8-point transform, set Rec 709 and create. Now let's import the same portion of your footage that you import inside the other timeline, and obviously scale the footage. Now we can jump inside the Export tab. In order to obtain a better organized workflow, I recommend you to match the footage original name with the name of your EXR sequence and Rec 709 file. In this case, I will add a suffix called preview. Let's choose MP4 and set H264 for your codec file. Let's add inside our render queue, and now we can set our EXR sequence. I have created and preset for my EXR export, but it's very simple. You have to choose EXR as a format, RGB half for codec, and you have to choose the same resolution and the same frame rate of your timeline. Inside the file panel, be sure to activate each clip starts at the frame 1. In this case, we are rendering a sequence image. DaVinci Resolve will generate one image for each frame, so I recommend you to create a specific folder to hold all these images. Now you can add also your EXR sequence inside of the render queue and render all. Welcome back inside Unreal Engine for Filmmakers. In this masterclass, you will know how to integrate your footage with 3D scenarios using Nuke and Unreal Engine. The first software that we'll explore inside this masterclass will not be Unreal, but Nuke. Nuke is the one of the most important software for VFX and compositing for Hollywood movies. There are a lot of versions of Nuke. In this masterclass, we will use Nuke Non-Commercial, which is the free version of Nuke. To obtain Nuke Non-Commercial, you have to go inside the homepage of Nuke, Product, Nuke Family again, and Nuke Non-Commercial. Obviously, Nuke non-commercial has some limitation, but for our purposes, we can define only two relevant limitations. The first is the output resolution. In fact, inside Nuke non-commercial, the output resolution is limited to HD. And also, inside Nuke non-commercial, some tools like the Ultimatte and the PrimeMatte are disabled. For my opinion, the output resolution is not a problem because I rendered all my composition that you can see in Instagram in HD. Instead, some tools like the PrimeMatte are very useful for the chroma key process, but don't worry, learning how to use the free tools inside the Nuke non-commercial, you will be able to achieve incredible results. Now press on Get Nuke non-commercial. Here you can create your free account inside Nuke, and clicking on Submit, you will get your Nuke non-commercial license. However, if you are a student, you can get the complete version of Nuke through a student license. To get your student license, you can go on Product, Educative Collective, Students. In this page, you can get all the information about the student license. For the first year, you can get Nuke for $99, which is a really cheap price because normally it will cost around $2,000 for a year. After the first year of the student license, you can get also a discount for the second year of Nuke. To get your student license, you can click on Apply Now here and choose the right form based on your country. After, you have to compile a simple form to receive an email with the student license to get the possibility to pay Nuke at a discount price. Once you complete the installation of Nuke, you will see inside your computer a lot of versions of Nuke. If you want to use the non-commercial version, you just have to open the Nuke X non-commercial. If you want to learn how to use Nuke and its premium tool with the Nuke student license, you have to open Nuke X. You can open Nuke and be prepared for the first lesson inside of it. Welcome back inside Unreal Engine for filmmakers. In this masterclass, you will know how to integrate your footage with 3D scenarios using Nuke and Unreal Engine. Welcome in this lesson. This is the Nuke interface. We can divide this workspace in three sections: the viewport, the node graph, and the properties panel. The first thing that I want to do inside of Nuke is set my project. Let's go in Edit, Project Settings. Inside the Project Settings panel, you can set your project as you want. With the frame range, I can set the duration of my timeline. I know that my EXR sequence is a sequence with around 300 frames, so I will set 300 in my frame range. In the full size format, I can set the resolution of my timeline. In this case, I know that I will import a sequence in 4K, so I will set my project in UHD 4K. Now we have to set our project for an ASYS pipeline workflow. In this case, I just set my project, but by default, your project is set to Nuke default. Since we want to work inside a ASYS color space, we have to set our color management in ASYS and set our ACO config in ASYS 1.2. In this case, Nuke saves the custom settings that I made for my workflow inside Nuke CG. I will leave you some seconds to copy my same settings. We can close the project settings, and now we can explore the node graph. The node graph is like the DaVinci node graph, and inside of it we can create our composition. In this lesson, I will show you the most common node that we use inside the masterclass. Let's start with the read node. To add a D node, we can press on tab and search, in this case, read. With the read node, we can import images and media files inside our project. You can also open the read node simply clicking on R. In this case, I will import the EXR sequence that I created in DaVinci before. Let's open. Okay. To visualize our node inside the viewport, we can press 1. Or connecting the viewer through this arrow to the read node. Every time we import a new file with the read node, we have to check if we set the correct input transform. By default, it always settings in scene linear. But as you know, we export an EXR sequence in ACES. So we have to set the right input transform. In this case, I will set my read node in ACES-CG. But for all the sequences coming from DaVinci, the best settings is AC2065-1. If the image inside your project is different by this one, be sure that you're setting right your viewport color space. In this case, I set my viewport in sRGB, but you can set also in Rec 709. Now you have to understand how the node graph work. This page is not really different by the DaVinci node graph, but in order to understand well how to work this page, I will introduce you some node in this lesson and I will show you how they work. Let's start with the grade node. The grade node is the one of the most common nodes inside of Nuke, and you can use to set the tonal values of your footage. From the property panel, we can set the channel in which this tool operates. As you can see, we can choose from RGB and alpha, only the alpha channel, and also activate or deactivate the single color channels. If we want to apply the edit of our grade node to our footage, we have to connect the grade node to the read node. But as you can see, if we change some values inside the grade node, I can see any difference. This because our viewer is connected to our read node. If we want to see the modifications of the grade node to the read node, we have to connect our viewer to our grade node. As I said before, we can do it quickly clicking on one. Now you can see the read node plus the modification of the grade 1. Now I will set my values by default to show you how they work. With the grade node, we will not do a grade inside of Nuke. Instead, I prefer consider the grade node as a powerful tool to match my footage with my CG render. For example, using the black point, the white point, the lift, and the gain, I can modify the black and white level and the darkness and the brightness part of my image. I will show you in the next lesson the grade node in a more efficient way. Now let's tweak a little bit in a random way, just to understand the graph node. As you can see now, my image is completely different by the grade node modifications. And now let's add a new grade node. You can fast add a new grade node by pressing on G. As before, I will set in a random way my grade node. My only intention is to create variation. I don't want to edit properly my image. Now let's add a new grade node before our grade node 1. We can add a grade node inside a structure, simply dragging between two nodes. And now let's edit this grade node. Now we have 3 different grade nodes inside our node graph. If I will visualize the grade node 2, in my viewport, I can see the result of all my nodes, from the read 1 to grade node 2. If I will visualize the grade node 1, I will see the result of my grade node 1 aided by the grade node 3 and 1. Finally, if I visualize the grade node 3, I will see my read footage aided by only the grade node 3. Now I will add another grade node and I will connect to the grade node 2. Now inside my viewport, I'm seeing the read node aided by the grade node 3 and the grade node 4. And I'm sure of it because I'm seeing only two arrows illuminated. One that connect the read node to the grade node 3 and another that connect the grade node 3 to the grade node 4. Now we can delete all the grade node that we created. And now I will show you another of the most important node inside of Nuke. The Keylight node. The Keylight is one of the most important tools for the chroma key process. Inside the Keylight property panel, we can set the view of our Keylight. So which step of the Keylight process we want to see. I always keep the final result value. Clicking on the black rectangular, we can activate the color picker to choose the green color we want to eliminate inside our footage. To select it, we have to click inside our footage pressing Ctrl. Based on the green color we picked before, the Keylight made an approximately chroma key pass. In order to understand better the operation of our Keylight, we can set our viewport in the alpha channel mode. To do that, we can simply go in the upper zone of our viewport and pressing on RGB, we can choose the color channel that we want to see inside the viewport. In this case, I will choose alpha. Now we can see our viewport in alpha. The alpha channel works between two values, the 1 and 0. In color, 0 corresponds to black, and the black and the darkest area are the transparent area. In this case, there are some points that are completely black, which means that that portion of our viewport is completely transparent. To be sure what is the alpha value of each pixel, we can check these values. As you can see, we have the RGB and alpha value. In this case, I'm picking a completely black value. In fact, the RGB and the alpha value are set to 0. I suggest you to check always the alpha value in the viewport and don't trust too much to your eyes. For example, maybe I'm sure that my subject is completely white, but if I zoom in a little bit, I can see there are some darkest area and my alpha value is never 1. Anyway, it's possible that your alpha value, it will never be exactly 1. It's common achieve a great result with an alpha set to 0.99 and something. So don't worry, you don't have to reach the white value in each pixel of your white area, but I suggest you anyway to check your alpha values when you are in doubt about your chroma key. If you want to return to RGB visualization, we can press A on our viewport. We can also use another shortcut in our viewport. If I want to see only the red channel, I can press on R. If I want to see the green channel, I can press on G. And for the blue channel, I can press on B. Now I will show you one of the most important nodes inside Nuke, the merge node. As usual, we can create a new merge node, press on Tab and search merge, or using the M button as a shortcut. With the merge node, we can combine the information from two different nodes. The way we combine this node depends by the operation of the merge node. By default, the merge node made an over operation. With the over operation, the node connect to the A arrow will be in foreground and the node connect to the B arrow will be in the background. I will show you an example importing a render from Unreal. Now let's use the merge node to connect the read node 2 to the read node 1. So let's connect the A arrow to the key light and the B arrow to the read node 2. Now we merge the two images, but as you can see, there is something strange. That's because our read node 1 is a 4K footage and our render is a full HD sequence. To match the resolution of the read node 1 to the resolution of the read node 2, we have to add a new node. This node is called reformat. Connecting the reformat node to our key light, we can change the resolution of our input. In this case, I will set my reformat node to HD. We could also make an upscale of the read node 2, but in that way we will lose details. I always prefer do an downscale than an upscale. So let's choose HD, okay, and let's grab our node between the key light and the merge node. Perfect. As you can see now, our resolution are matching and the structure of our read node 1 is over the read node 2. We can also invert the inputs of our merge node with a simple shortcut, Shift plus X. And as you can see, my environment now is over my read node 1. In this case, I can't see anything behind of it because there are no transparent areas in my render. Now you know the most common nodes that we will use inside this masterclass. I suggest you also to download another pack of node in the Pixelfudger website. You can check the link in the description below. Now let's see the timeline of Nuke. As all the timelines, we can press on play to see our footage. We can stop, you can move frame by frame, press on these buttons. We can move between two specific keyframes. In this case, I'm moving between my in and out of my timeline. Or I can move within a custom range of frame. In this case, I set 10 frame, but I can set whatever number I want. As you can see, when we play our timeline, our image sometimes can be more slow. That's because, like After Effects, Nuke need to pre-render the sequence. And as you can see, this red value is the frame rate speed of my timeline. After the pre-renderization is complete, my timeline will be fast and smooth. As you can see, if I play my sequence, I can see it in 24 FPS. In this case, I set my timeline at 24 FPS, but changing the frame rate of my timeline will not affect my export. The timeline frame rate is only a tool to set the visualization of my footage and is not linked to my final result. Now I set my timeline at 8 FPS, and sometimes change a slower frame rate can be very useful, for example for the camera track process. Okay, now you learn the basics of Nuke, and you are ready for the next lesson about the chroma key. Welcome back inside Unreal Engine for filmmakers. In this masterclass, you will know how to integrate your footage with 3D scenarios using Nuke and Unreal Engine. Welcome back in Unreal Engine for filmmakers. Now you know the basics of Nuke and we can jump inside our first lesson inside of it, the chroma key process. In this video, I will show you how to chroma key your footage with Nuke non-commercial. As I told you, this version has some limitation, but don't worry, you will achieve a great result inside Nuke non-commercial. This is my node structure of my chroma key and my compositing process. As you can see, we have our original footage, and here we can check our composite complete with the environment, the fog, and the all additional effects that I will show you in the next lessons. Maybe you can think that this structure is impossible to understand, but don't worry, it's really really simple, and you will learn how to create your chroma key and compositing process during this masterclass. But before to start practically with our chroma key process, I want to explain these steps to create a perfect chroma key. In the beginning, we have to create a core matte, a hard selection of our subject. After, we have to focus on the semi-transparent areas like the hair and the edges. In order to achieve that, we have to create a soft key. Once we combine the result of the soft key and the core matte, we have to create a garbage mask around our subject in order to exclude all the details that we don't want to include inside our final composition. The last step of the chroma key process is not about the alpha channel, but about the RGB channel. We have to use the dispel tool to eliminate the green cast on our subject. The core matte, the soft key, the garbage matte, and the dispel are the main steps to create a perfect chroma key. Now we can finally start with the chroma key process inside Nuke. Okay, now I will recreate the chroma key node structure from scratch. First, let's press Tab and search for read. With the read node, we can add our footage inside Nuke. In this case, I will choose the same sequence that I export in DaVinci. You can download this EXR sequence in the link below this video. Now we have our footage inside of Nuke. Now let's zoom in, and as you can see, we have to fix our input transform. In this case, the read node is set to ACES CG, but DaVinci Resolve generates ACES footage in a different color space. In fact, this EXR sequence is exported in ACES 2065-1. Let's set the correct input transform in our read node. Go to color space, ACES 2065-1. Now we set the correct color space for our EXR sequence. Before to create our core matte, we have to create a clean plate. The clean plate is a version of our footage without our subject inside of it. So let's create an IBK color node. As you can see, now our viewport is almost completely black. That's because by default, the IBK color is set for a blue screen pipeline production. To fix that, we can go on the property panel of our IBK color and change the screen type from blue to green. Now, as you can see, our IBK color are selecting, using the default values, some areas of our composition. We have to set in a correct way our IBK color in order to create a perfect selection of our subject. Using the default values, the IBK color for this sequence made an rough selection of our subject. We have to create a perfect selection. First, in the property panel, we have to change the size value. I suggest you to set a value between 0.5 and 1. In this case, I will set 1. And as you can see, now my IBK color made a really better selection on my subject. We can also check the edges around the hair of the subject. And as you can see, we create a really good selection just changing the value size. But in order to create a great result, I don't want that my IBK color select also the closest areas around my subject. So we have to manage the dark and the light values. On the cycle icon, we can open the sliders of dark and light. Managing the RGB of the light value, we will manage the selection on the brightness area of our viewport. And setting darks, we will adjust the selection on the darkest area of our viewport. In this case, setting the right value in the green channel of light, we will affect the selection in the green screen areas. In this case, obviously, I will add a little bit my lights. Okay, let's try with 1.12, 14. Okay, something like that. As you can see, now I separated the selection of my subject between the selection of the other areas of my viewport. Now let's change also the red channel of the light in order to achieve a better result. Okay. I also suggest you to use the alpha viewport to check better our selection. As you can see, our subject needs a little bit of adjustment. We can adjust our subject managing the darkest area. I think that my green channel of the dark area are okay. I prefer in this case to start to set the red channel. So let's move a little bit. And as you can see, we are selecting in a really great way our subject. During the IBK or the key light process, I always recommend you to check the entire footage and not a single frame. In this case, I think that I work pretty well. I can manage a little bit also the green channel of darks. Okay. This is a really good starting point to prepare our clean plate. Now we have to set in the right way our pitch black and our erode. So let's try setting some values like 15 for our pitch black. As you can see, the black areas of my IBK color now are replaced with the environment areas. As usual, I will move a little bit my timeline in order to see if there is some issues. Okay. Okay, there are no issues in my viewport, but I'm sure that I can improve the work of my IBK color. First, I try to decrease the size value. In this case, something like 0.4. Okay. Now I want to reduce the glow around my dark area. In order to do that, I have to set my erode value. As you can see, the area around my black subject are not perfectly smooth and integrated with the background. And also, I don't like this glow area around the hair. So we can adjust our erode to reduce this effect. So I will set something like 1.7. It's a little small value. And as you can see, the glow is reduced and the replacement of my background is really better than before. Now we have to duplicate our IBK color node and create multiples IBK color in order to create a perfect replacement of my background. Now let's set our new IBK color and let's increase the pitch black value. In this case, I will set my pitch black something around 40. Okay, and let's reduce to 0 our erode. As you can see, my subject disappears from my viewport, but I will add another 2 IBK color in order to be sure to create a perfect clean plate. In this case, I will set around 80. Okay. As you can see, there is not a lot of difference than before, but let's add another one and set the pitch black to 100. Perfect. As you can see now, the black area of my IBK color are now completely green or replaced by another color. But now I have to create my clean plate, so a version of my sequence with a uniform green as a background. To do that, I will use a node by Pixelfudger called PXF Screen Clean. As you can see, this node has some multiple inputs, but it's really easy to understand which input we want to connect to our read node and which input we want to connect to our IBK color. So let's exclude our mask input and let's connect our plate to our read node. And let's connect our clean plate, so a version without our subject, to our IBK color V34. By default, the screen clean will replace your background with a pink color. Fix that is really simple. You have to visualize your read node 1 and in the property of the screen clean, click on the pink rectangular and select a green pixel of your read 1. In this case, I will choose something in the middle between the brightest green pixel and the darkest green pixel. As you can see, the color of my rectangle of the green screen is changed. And now let's see our screen clean node. And as you can see, our screen clean creates a perfect and uniform green as a background for our subject. You don't have always create a screen clean, but is a really useful tool to help the chroma key process. Now I will create a denoise node in order to reduce the noise of my footage. As you can see, there is an alert in the viewport. That's because the denoise needs a selection of a portion of your footage in order to analyze the noise. So let's return to our read node, move the rectangle in the corner and select a uniform area of our green screen. Now we can return on the denoise node and set the properties of the denoise. With the denoise amount, we can adjust the power of our denoise. In this case, I will decrease a little bit because I don't need to clean too much my sequence. But remember, less noise there is in your sequence, more your chroma key will be precise. And also a sequence without noise will merge really better with your CG environment. Now we can finally start with the chroma key process. The first step is to create our core matte selection. The main node to create our core matte is the key light node. If you don't want to see the rectangle of the denoise, you can just close the property panel of the denoise node. In this case, I will close all the properties panels. With the key light node, we will eliminate the green area inside of our sequence. Go in the properties panel and on screen color, press on the black rectangular and using left click of mouse and control, let's pick a green color of our background. As you can see, the key light made a really good selection of our background. Let's activate the alpha viewer pressing on A, but our selection is not completely white, and also we want to achieve a core matte, so we don't want to see feather on the edges of our subject. We can also zoom a little bit to see better the edges of our subject. As you can see, this selection is more like a softcore result. So we have to adjust some settings on the property panel of the key light. Let's open the screen matte and we have to set the clip black and the clip white. Increasing the clip white value, we will add the intensity of the white areas. In this case, I will set something around 0.8. And now let's see also the shoes of our subject. Okay, I think is pretty good. Maybe we can decrease a little bit our clip white. Okay. With the clip black slider, we will add contrast in the black areas of our key light in order to make these areas more transparent. Okay, as you can see, our selection is really harder than before. As usual, we have to check the entire timeline of our sequence. And let's see if our result is okay for all the frames of our timeline. I think is really good. Okay. It's not a problem, the feather in the shadow area, it's okay. I reactivate the RGB visualization pressing on A, like before. And as you can see, the selection of our core matte is a really hard selection without feather. Now we have to create our soft matte. We have to create another node structure parallel to the key light structure node. So let's press Ctrl and click in the arrow between the denoise and the key light node. In this way we created a connection point inside our line. Now let's create an IBK color node and let's connect to our new point. As usual, we have to set the right screen type. So let's change to green. And now we have to create the same process that we created before. So let's set our size value around 1. And let's tweak a little bit the dark and the light areas. In this case, I think it's enough just to adjust the dark value of my IBK color. And specifically, I will change the red channel of my dark area. Okay, that's enough. I want just to fix a little bit the shoes areas of my subject. Now let's move a little bit inside the timeline. Okay, and now let's duplicate our IBK. As I did before, I have to eliminate my subject from my sequence. In this case, I will increase the pitch black, as I did before, by setting a value of 10. In this case, I set the second IBK color node. No matter what, if you start to adjust your pitch black from the first or from the second IBK color. Let's set also the erode. Let's try with a low value. Okay. And now let's duplicate our IBK color. In this case, I will set my erode to 0 and I will set my pitch black around 50. Let's add another IBK color and let's set the pitch black to 80. I'm pretty sure that 3 IBK color was enough, but I always prefer add another one just to be sure. Now we have to use the information from our IBK color to generate an alpha image of our subject. To do that, we have to add another node. So let's add the point here and pressing on tab, let's search for IBK Gizmo. Let's connect the FG input to our dot and let's connect the color input to our final IBK color. Let's press 1. Okay, there is something wrong. This is not the image that I want to achieve. Because like for the IBK color, I have to set the correct screen type. In fact, as you can see, in the properties of our IBK Gizmo, the screen type is set to blue. In this case, I have to set it to sea green. And as you can see, now we have our subject in alpha separated from the background. And also we achieve a soft selection of our subject. We can adjust the selection moving the red weight and the blue screen weight. As you can see, we will change the fall off of our selection. In this case, we are affecting also the RGB channel, but don't worry, we will extract only the work of the alpha channel. In this case, I will set the red and blue weight to 0 and I adjust my red weight. I want to find a good spot to create a good fall off of my selection. Okay, I think this is good. Also in the other areas, the result is pretty good. Now we have to combine the soft key and the core key in order to have a really good selection of our subject, but with a nice fall off in the edges. So let's add a merge node. As I told you in the last lesson, the merge node will combine two different nodes, in this case the IBK Gizmo and the Keylight node. But we can also set the type of operation of this merge. In this case, by default, the merge node is set to over, but in the properties we can choose whatever operation we want. Now we have to connect the merge node to the Gizmo and the Keylight. So let's connect the A input to our Gizmo and the B input to our Keylight. And activating the alpha viewer, as you can see, we have a really soft selection in our edges and a really good core selection inside of our subject. But we also have this color shift caused by the IBK Gizmo. To fix that, we have to adjust our merge inside the properties panel. And we have to simply deactivate the RGB channel on the output and leave only the alpha. As you can see, we combine perfectly the soft key and the core matte. You can see the difference between the combination of the Keylight and the IBK Gizmo, activating the alpha viewer, and check if there is any difference between the merge node, the Keylight, and the IBK Gizmo. So let's check our Keylight. As you can see, we have a really hard edges. Checking the IBK Gizmo, we have this smooth fall off of our selection. And the merge node, we have the combination of these two nodes. To complete our chroma key process, we need the dispill and the garbage matte. Let's start with the dispill. Let's adjust our node structure. Let's create a new connection point after our denoise node. Now we have to search for a node to dispill our footage. In this case, I will choose the PXF Killspill, or the dispill to color node that you can download in the link below of this video. Let's start trying with the dispill. Let's connect the image input. And as you can see, the PXF Killspill will substitute the green with gray. Now we have to combine the dispill color with the merge node. To do that, we will not use a new merge node, but we will use a copy node using the key shortcut. Let's connect the B input to our PXF Killspill and the A input to our merge node. But if we try to see the copy node, we will see any difference from the PXF Killspill node. That's because we have to add a new node called pre-multiply. Let's press on tab and let's search for pre-mult. Okay, now we have the combination of our Killspill and our merge node. But now I see a gray edge around my subject, so I will substitute the PXF Killspill with the dispill color. In this case, I have to set manually the target color in the property panel, but it's not a problem. Now I simply want to check if there is any improvement in our pre-multiply node. For me, it's a little bit better, but honestly, this is not the result that I want to achieve. I can clearly see this ugly edge around my subject. This means that the problem is not coming from the dispill process. In this case, I prefer use the PXF Killspill and fix this problem in another way. We can try to manage the IBK Gizmo or create a new node called Edge Extend. And as you can see, our result is really better than before. To do a simple before and after, we can press on our edge node and press D on our keyboard to activate and deactivate it. For my opinion, this is a really good chroma key process. Now we are seeing our subject with a black background, but when we will combine the footage with our environment, we will achieve a really good result. Now we have to do the final step of our chroma key process, the garbage matte. We will create a mask around our subject and we will adjust the position of our mask based on the movement of our subject. So let's search our Mask node, pressing on Tab, and search for Roto. The Roto node is the most common node to create mask inside of Nuke. So let's set our timeline in the first keyframe of our sequence, so the keyframe 1. And as you can see, in the left side of our viewport appears this panel. Let's press on this icon and choose Bezier. Now we have to create a simple mask around our subject. As you can see, I'm not creating a perfect mask. Let's adjust some point of our mask, okay. When we create our mask inside our viewport, we also create a first keyframe of our mask. In fact, in the timeline, the keyframe 1 now is tinted by blue. And we can also check it in the property panel of our read node. As you can see, this box is tinted by blue. Now, if we move our timeline in another frame, something like the 30 frame, we can see that the keyframe number is orange as a default, and the box in the property panel of the Roto node is tinted by gray. To create a new keyframe, we just need to select our mask and move it. Changing the position, we create also a new keyframe. Now let's move on the 50 frame and let's fix the position. We will adjust the position of our mask for the entire duration of our sequence. If we click on Shift on the corner of our selection, we can also adjust the size of our mask. Once you complete this operation, I also suggest you to check again your timeline just to be sure that your tracking process was made correctly. Now we have to combine the Roto node to our pre-multiply node. To do that, we can add a new merge node. But in this case, we have to change the operation from over to mask. Now let's connect the A input to the Roto node and the B input to our multiply node. And as you can see, the subject is the only visible element of my viewport. Let's close some properties, okay? Finally, our chroma key process is complete, but we can add another node to check the quality of our chroma key. This node is called checkboard. Create another merge node in over operation. Let's connect the A input to our merge mask and the B input to our checkboard. In this way, our subject will appear over the checkboard image. Let's visualize our new merge node. Using this merge node, I can check the quality of the edges of my subject. And as you can see, the result is pretty good. Now you know how to create a chroma key inside Nuke Non-Commercial. In the next lesson, I will show you how to create a chroma key using the complete version of Nuke.